Welcome. I am Glenda Dawson from Glenda's Dragon's Den, and this is LD. Just wanted to say that we are live on Conscious Awakening Network on Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And of course, other streaming platforms like Spotify and YouTube and Facebook. Welcome today. It's a beautiful day out here. As always, even if it's raining or snowing, it's still a beautiful day. Nature always gives us beauty no matter what we are looking at.
And we'd get bored if it was sunny all the time.
Yes.
That's our nature.
Very true. We'll get bored no matter what, too much of. So today we have a beautiful soul, an author of 6 nonfiction books. Just to say a little bit about him, Steve Nobel. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hi, Glenda. Hi, LD. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm British, living in Brighton, which is kind of, if you look on the map, London, if you draw a line straight to the kind of coast, there's Brighton, which is a seaside town. I'm 30 seconds from the sea. It's very alternative here. It's kind of a hotbed of alternative stuff going on here. It's kind of my idea of living. Work had to be a holiday, and my parents used to bring me here for holidays. So I thought, why don't I just live here and work here by the sea? Living the entrepreneurial lifestyle with my online desktops and laptops and everything. So all my work is online these days. I do have some live events. I like to hug people. So I'm living in the UK. Born in the late 50s, 1950s, to a British working class family. Pretty, working class, salt of the earth, work hard, all of that. America knows about work hard. America's a puritanical culture. Nothing spiritual, nothing very entrepreneurial. In fact, my father really got a hint that I was a kind of spiritual-ish type of kid growing up. And he even blocked me from watching things like Bewitched, saying it's not suitable for you. He didn't like anything spiritual. He was very into the war and history and everything, Second World War history and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up, I decided I should try to become normal. I wasn't a particularly normal teenager. I was into yoga and macrobiotics at 15, 16 and meditation. I was going around spiritual organizations at the age of 15, but I got the idea that I'm too young for this because people were saying, come back when you're older. They actually said that to me. Wow. I even wrote to a few spiritual authors. I wrote to Lobsang Rampa. Do you remember him, Lobsang Rampa? Mm-hmm. In the 1970s, and he typed me a few nice letters back. But I thought I should be normal. I got married. I went to work in the City of London in banking. So I was living a very kind of 3D boxy life, marriage, 2 young children, mortgage, which is a golden chain around your neck, really cheap mortgage, and working in the City of London. After 10 years, I couldn't do it anymore. I was really hitting burnout. I chatted to my now ex-wife and she said, you have responsibilities. So I was like, right, that means keep going. So and then I did kind of crash and burn. I spent a year convalescing. I then went to move into another career, which was 10 years in local government. I guess you would have, in America, you'd understand local government. They call it local government, working with social housing and all this kind of thing. So it's a very different type of work. After 10 years of that, I discovered spirituality in 1991. And that was it. I was off. I met a witch. She was supposed to be giving me language lessons. She's taught me tarot. She taught me crystal healing. And then from there, I went on to crystal healing. From there, I found a spiritual teacher. From there, I found all these amazing channels and also an organization called Alternatives, which I resigned from the corporate world and I went and worked in this spiritual organization, basically making tea in the office. And then I became a director in 2000. I was a director of that organization for 13 years, meeting kind of all my heroes, the Neil Donald Walshes, the Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie's, all these kind of Julia Cameron, having tea with them, which was very nice to find out what they're like behind, off the screen, off the stage. And I was there 13 years. And then I started to get the impulse, I need to leave. I've done this period. I love it, but I've done it. and I resisted it. I've got the feeling I should leave, but no, what am I going to do? It was a kind of push-pull thing.
Mm-hmm.
That threw me into a dark night of the soul that lasted 6 years. It was really intense, dark night of the soul. The idea that beyond depression, it was like beyond depression. It was like losing all meaning, losing kind of a lot of practical anchors. My long-term relationship dissolved. I resigned from that job. I was in a really dark night of the soul. I joined a spiritual community where there was heretical Buddhists. They were all like ex-Buddhists. We're ex-Buddhists now. They were kind of heretics, which was fun. I enjoyed hanging out with them. And then after I started coming out the dark night, and I had a voice speak to me one morning saying, teach about Starseeds and Ascension. And it wasn't the kind of thing I wanted to hear. Before then I was always connected with guides and channeling. In the dark night of the soul, it switched off. And then the first voice was like, here you are, you're out, welcome back, Starseeds Ascension, get on with it. And I'm like, I don't even know if I believe in this stuff. Why would I want to teach about that? But I sat with it. And when I really looked back at my dark night and all the things, the trigger of 2012, I started to think, you know what, I think there is something in this. And so I started at the beginning. I think, I don't know if I really have anything to teach, but people started flocking to me. I ran a workshop, it was sold out. And the organizer said, you got to do more of this stuff. So I'm like, oh, well, okay, clearly the universe wants me to do it. 7 years later now, I think I've got more idea about what's going on with the Ascension process and Starseeds and all of the kind of way out stuff I was privately into. But even working in a spiritual organization, I was too way out even for them. So I kept it very private. But now I can be as weird as I like because my old business is, let's just move the camera, there we are. The Soul Matrix business is about Starseeds and being totally out there. So I can be authentic and don't have to hide any part of me anymore now. So
isn't that wonderful when you could be that free?
Yeah, I think so.
Nothing green lights you like the universe.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking my instructions now from the universe. I'm getting all kinds of I did all kinds of training and connected with the higher self, guides, angels, and all this kind of thing. And I love the idea of following signs. There's always signs and synchronicities. So now I'm just following the signs. I'm following my intuition. And by and large, it seems to be working very, very well. I might sit in a cafe and get an idea plop in. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a good idea. How am I going to make that work? And really, by the time I get there, I'll know how to make it work. So I might have an idea for a webinar. I'll put it up, knowing that in 3 months' time when it runs, I'll have all the answers, like the Matrix, it'll just drop in, I know how to do Kung Fu type of thing, like Neo or something. And it seems to work. So I just trust the universe now. I think trusting the universe is part of the process because in the beginnings, we'd love to trust it. We were testing it out. Right. But after a while, you go, okay, I get it. The universe has my back. I can trust. I can distinguish my ego mind from messages from higher self and universe. That's a big one for a lot of people because their ego can start mimicking and they get distracted in all kinds of weird ways. And I've seen a few people come to, dead ends with following ego voices rather than their higher self or their true intuition, really.
To synchronicity, there's actually a Brighton beach in New York City on the southern shore of the borough of Brooklyn. And a lot of alternative people flock there. So I find that interesting. You mentioned that a voice spoke to you and said Starseeds. How do you identify that voice? Can you give me some idea of, in retrospect, what you think that was?
Yeah, I think part of the work for me and for a lot of people is recognizing the kind of voices we have in our head. Because we all have different voices, we may have internalized our mother, our father, our university professor, or all of these people. They're all kind of in the mix of our psyche. And when we start to awaken, the idea is we start beginning to upgrade those voices so that those voices don't have the same power over us. Voices like the inner critic. You're not smart enough. Who do you think you are? Those kind of voices. You're too fat. You're not smart enough. You're not good looking enough. All of those kind of voices. Or all the judgmental voices, all of this. But then we start to learn to distinguish the voices of guides and higher self, which has a very different feel to it. It has a feel of, they're not voices that are making us feel anxious or fearful They're not voices that are telling us what to do. I mean, I say the voice said, Starseeds, Ascension, get on with it. It wasn't kind of like that. It was more gentle than that. It was more like, okay, now is your time to do this. It was a kind of invitation, and not one that I wanted. But the voice of the higher self and guides are gentler, soothing. They feel more expansive. They feel, oh yeah, even if it feels slightly scary, there's a kind of, yeah, I kind of know that that's where I need to go. Whereas the ego is more like fearful, anxiety, or forceful, or pushing. So this voice was not one of those. And because that voice of guides and higher self I was used to before the dark night was switched off, the moment it came back, it was like, hallelujah, I'm being spoken to again. The universe hasn't forgotten me. But 6 years, it kind of switched off. So it was really difficult. So I was really glad the voice was there, but I was hoping for more of a gentler message rather than, okay, now you're going to talk about starseeds. And I mean, I'd heard about starseeds and Ascension and these kind of things, but I wasn't totally, on board with it. I wasn't totally on board with 2012 end of the mind calendar. I thought, well, maybe, I don't know. But after my dark night, and after the voice came and said, do it, I kind of learned to trust, well, if I'm being, guided to do it, I'll just say yes to it. Say yes to the higher self. And so that voice was not my voice. It wasn't a voice that I would recognize in my head. It was a very, very different voice. I'm trying to think. It felt more masculine than feminine, older than me, but somehow, or more ancient than me, but younger at the same time. It's kind of a weird feeling, the whole voice, but I recognize the voice now, and it comes to me in client sessions. It may say, can you just check X, Y, or Z? And I kind of, when I get that, I go, right, okay, I'm going to check it. So I've kind of learned to check that voice, and by and large, it's led me very well. I've I didn't have any plan when I started all of this. I've just been waiting, and it would say, okay, now start sessions, now start webinars. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Yes, yes. And by and large, it's been done very well. When I was a director of the spiritual organization, I remember this guy saying to me, what's your business plan for the next 5 years? And basically, I'm like, I don't have a business plan for the next 6 months. I'm just following guidance. I don't know. And we kind of got very upset that I should have a business plan. But by and large, with that organization, over the time I was there, it was almost in bankrupt by the time I took it over. And when I left it with a lot of liquid cash, and also investments in IT systems. And so without having a business plan, being guided by angels, because I'd regularly meditate and going, hey guys, what should we do now? And they would tell me,
Right.
there are angels who are interested in business and will guide us. So so I've come to trust that. And well, there are beings and angels who can guide us in practically anything, if that's our soul calling and we're interested in that kind of stuff. So that voice, it's really this learning, what are those voices in us, and learning to distinguish the gentle voice of spirit from the harsher, judgmental, fearful voices of ego. So I don't know. Other than that, I don't know if I can describe that voice. Other than it was very clear, like a bell. Like it's very clear. Like now you're gonna, and I got it. And sometimes I think the voice. It's almost like sometimes I think when I get a download, it's almost like not a voice speaking. It's almost like in 10 seconds, I can get a whole transmission downloaded in me. And I'm like, whoa, what's that? And then I have to open it up and go, oh, there's an hour's meditation that I got in
Right.
10 seconds, that kind of thing. So time is a bit strange. And so sometimes it's not even a voice. It's just like a drum, like a download of a computer. And I'm like, oh, okay, I've got a download. Sometimes they speak to me, sometimes I get a download. So
Can we agree that was an aha moment of soul evolution when you went to that voice and heard it and came out of that dark spot?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely an aha moment. I think also going into it was also part of my soul evolution, that before I went into it, I didn't believe in dark forces. I didn't really believe in lower astral energies or entities. I didn't believe in kind of mischievous. I didn't really experience it so much. But after that 6 years of intense being I could say having my, I guess in America you say having my ass kicked. Would you say that? In by darker forces, dreadful dreams, really difficult experiences. I felt the world had gone dark. So I think my soul said, go in there, have a look around, get your learning and come out. I'd rather have done it in 2 years or 1 year or 6 months. I think 6 years, but maybe I'm a slow learner. I don't know. Probably I'm a slow learner. It said, stay in there a bit more. You need a bit more. It was the Hogwarts, the Hogwarts class of dark arts. That's what I was in, really.
Well,
To
that
understand.
incubation seems to have served you. So,
Right.
I'm just grateful you've come to where you are now.
Thank you.
Can we agree that one needs to be proactive? That we can't really evolve from a place of complacency?
Yeah, for sure.
And the
I think,
reason I
yeah,
ask is because in the work that I know of you, that I've seen, I marvel at the intensity of the assignments you give and the depth of the assignments you give. And it seems to me that they're so compelling and immersive that one cannot help but evolve if they do the work. And that's why we're here, is to do the work and evolve. Agreed?
yeah, for sure. Well, my principle of all of this work is when I get the download, I have to run it through my own body and my own energy field. And if it's not complete, I'll say to them something missing or something not working, and then it has to keep. I kind of rerun it, and then click, it works. Okay, perfect. So then I can put it out, and because it works in my field, I think it's going to work in a lot of people's fields. Not everyone, not everyone's drawn to what I'm doing, but there's a lot of people going to get, and they feel the intensity of it because I am doing it ahead of putting it out there. I'm not just kind of, so for example, I just put up one called Temple of Isis. And Temple of Isis has been with me for about 2 to 3 months. And it's been in my system, and it was just, working through and getting clearer. What is this about? Why are we going there? What's the point of it? And then it clicked, and I put it out. So I put it out the other day, and then it's had 9,000 plays in 2 days. And people are generally feeling the intensity of it because I've felt the intensity of it. And I can go, yeah, this is intense. I can let it go, rather than this is sweet. Hey, let's tune into some unicorns and have a nice rainbow bridge. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested that every transmission has to have a point to it. And the point has to be really, really clear. And it can't be vague. But with your point of proactive versus complacent, I would say I'm very proactive. People say, don't you ever sleep? How are you doing this stuff? I don't know. My partner's going, how are you doing? She's just like, I need to go and have tea. I'm just out. But I'm full on in it. But I think there is this being and doing process, which is growth. There's a process of who are we being, which is important. We're not just doing, because the world is about doing, isn't it? We're going to find who are we being, what's our kind of core vibration, core essence, core energy, and from there, then we can do stuff. So it's a bit like a staircase. We're being, and then we're doing, and then we're finding a new place of being, and then doing, and then and it keeps going like that, I think. So the idea of being and doing. So when I'm running workshops, live in-person events, I don't meditate with people all day long. I give a couple of meditations, and then we're doing stuff. We're processing, we're moving, because I think there's a great thing of growing through lots of poetry, dance, processing, creative stuff. There's all kinds of things we can do, and it all can help people grow. So on my YouTube channel, it's mostly meditations, but in live workshops and webinars, it's not just that. I do a whole combination of stuff, which way we can bring in the kind of coachy, kind of spiritual coachy stuff. So yeah.
You had mentioned that you were working for a while with some monks that were rebellious against their teachings.
Yeah.
Do you experience the societal counterculture as being one to try and forward codependency in a way of manipulating and controlling the masses? and getting them to be more subjective as opposed to objective?
Do you mean that are there spiritual groups and teachers out there that are doing that kind of manipulative stuff? And do
Not
you mean that?
spiritual, the opposite of spiritual.
Oh, you
Those
mean
that are trying to keep society from evolving.
oh, I see. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think the dark night of the soul taught me that there are okay, well, I call them dark forces. People might call them anti-light forces or anti-evolutionary forces. Some people call them cabal or deep state, or there's all these kind of terms for them. But I would say there are forces on the earth, and many teachers have spoken about this. There are forces on the earth plane, and you guys in America are witnessing probably full frontal, really. I know, because you guys, I know you don't do politics, but you know the political arena, particularly, you can see like, hey, they're not all love and light. You know, I think the whole Trump Biden thing and all of that is showing a kind of deep split, particularly in America, but not only in America. So there are forces out there to manipulate on the outer planes through media. Media is highly controlled.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I would say that the recent experience of global lockdown has shown how deep that control over the media is, and also control over other, in like the pharmaceutical, the medical, all of these things are highly controlled, more controlled than we may have realized. So but on the inner planes, there are groups who are also trying to block soul's evolution. There are lower astral forces. There are, I would say that there are satanic forces in the world. Some people might not call it that, but I would say particularly deep state in America, not only America, probably also Britain, of course, are connected to what I would call satanic practices that are locking them into darker energies. We could call them fallen angels. We can call them different things, but there are such energies as fallen angels, and people can align with them. And there are, you know, those forces have enabled people to have power and wealth and certain level of success for a long, long time. But that's changing now. The light is changing on the planet, and so whereas 300 years ago, or even 50 years ago, no, maybe not 50 years, I might be burnt as a witch. Somebody's seeing what I'm saying, they'd burn me, you know. And I know I've had that experience in some other lifetime, but in this lifetime, they're not able to stop it. Religion has been hacked into by dark forces. All the religions, Buddhism has been hacked into. Christianity, definitely. You can see just by the fruits of Christianity what's been going on, all the wars and all of the stuff that's gone on. And Islam has been hacked into. All of them have been hacked into. So yeah, those forces have got fingers in every kind of power stream. They've got in London, the financial city of London, dark forces trying to manipulate a global banking system, manipulated. But the good news is that we can free ourselves and walk in those systems and not be so touched by them. That's the revelation, that you can do that. I mean, I feel I have to live within a highly controlled financial system, but I have quite a certain amount of freedom with that, I would say. So we don't have to be beholden to it.
Using the model of, say, yin and yang, would you be in agreement that it is all about love, but the one love is the oneness, the concept that we are all from the same consciousness, and the other one is a more narcissistic love or a self-love to try and destroy the oneness?
Yeah, I think there is, you know, at a higher level, higher dimension of consciousness, we're not at that level we're not existing in that dimension. In this dimension, there's polarity. You know, there are the yin yang, the male female, the light dark, and all. This is how we move through this world. There's these polarities. At a higher level, which we could call maybe higher self or maybe monadic self, the oversoul, there is a oneness, there's an interconnection, and we know we're all just all little reflections of the one unity. But I think in terms of growth, there are a lot of people who make this idea of love as kind of very sickly sweet and slightly narcissistic. And of course, narcissists can have a field day with love. You know, they meet an empath and they go, we can use you. I know you're an empathic, loving soul. Let me just tweak that and use that to my advantage.
Right.
At the soul level, the soul will guide through love, but the soul also has a concept of rough love. Like, it's not all the soul will guide. Like, I went through a 6-year dark night of the soul. The soul went, go in there. And the soul will say, face your fear and move through it. It's not all rainbows and unicorns and people dressed in white. Namasteing, everyone. You know, the soul growth can be rough at times. Some people have called it walking the razor's edge. So there are points in your life on the path. Now, when I was at the beginning of my journey, if anybody had told me that, I might have gone, you know what, that doesn't sound so good. But there'll be moments where everything may just fall away from your life, you know,
Right.
that all of the stuff, people, situations, possessions may just go. And then it has to be reinvented. And that's just part, you know, I know in Native American culture, they have this kind of giveaway thing. And twice in my life, once with divorce where I gave away everything. Divorce is a great place to practice giving away everything. And yeah, and so the other time I had literally hardly anything, and I thought this is a great, you know, nature abhors a vacuum. Stuff will always come in. You know, it's I don't have to worry about stuff. And here I am again with more stuff, more crystals than I've ever owned, and more stuff, and it will go and come. It's just like one of those things. So I think love is love. People can be manipulated, unfortunately, by it. Love can be very beautiful, magical, rough, and edgy. It's not sickly sweet, definitely not narcissistic. And most spiritual light workers, starseeds, may well come across narcissists at some point, because narcissists are great teachers. They'll teach you. If you don't love yourself, a narcissist will teach you. If you've got no boundaries, a narcissist will teach you. They'll come in and kick you about until you know, do you want to learn about self-love? You want to learn about boundaries, honoring your time and energy? Well, I'll come in and I'll destroy your house, and then we'll see. You know, the idea is it's about learning. It's quite a rough lesson, of course, a narcissist. I've been through one myself, actually twice I've been through that. And both times it was a great propulsion of my growth. But at the time I'm going, this is so painful.
Yes.
Both, one was a romantic one and one was a boss in the corporate world, and both were like, oh my god. It took me a long time to even believe, are they really like that? Is that really who they are? Because empathic people can't see it. We're going to blink into this.
Yes, we can't dream that anybody could be like that or even do those things. It's like,
yeah.
But,
Just as they can't dream that anyone would be so selfless.
Right.
Yeah, or so naive. Yeah, they go, hey,
Right.
a naive person, wonderful. I can have a whole field day with this person, you know. And you know, whenever I do webinars, I say, anybody met a narcissist? 3/4 of the hands go up usually.
Yeah.
And I bet the others are too shy to say anything. So.
Yes.
So as we go through this spiritual evolution that we both, or the three of us, can agree that is happening.
Yeah.
In the yin and yang model, don't you see the darkness also gaining strength to try and continue that polarization that this world is about?
Yeah, as the light gets more intense, the darkness also intensifies. That's for certain. You know, Jung said, as you bring in more light, the shadows will get deeper.
Yes.
So on one level, the light is throwing up our own shadows in our psyche, where we have been abusive or abused in other lifetimes, or persecuted, or the persecutor, or all of these things, because we are literally at the point of clearing up potentially hundreds of thousands of lifetimes, which is not easy. It's not a weekend workshop. It's like peeling the layers of the onion. But at the same time, beyond just our own psyche process in the world, those dark forces, which have always been there but more hidden, are suddenly less hidden and more obvious. And they don't even seem to mind that they're more obvious, because they just seem to think, hey, we're all it's a bit like the Wizard of Oz, you know. Toto the dog pulls the curtain aside and the wizard goes, oh, ignore the guy behind the curtains. They're kind of very, very cocky and very, very, they think they've ruled the planet for a long time. They're, you know, invincible. Nothing can touch them. But, you know, some of them are waking up to the fact that, hey, the world is changing and we need to block this evolution, block this ascension, block starseeds, which is why a lot of spiritual people are getting an increase in psychic attack over the last certainly 10 years. It's increased quite a lot. I've experienced in my own life, psychic attack has amped up to a very high level that I have to, myself and my partner, do daily protection, morning and evening, and even throughout the day, I have to do stuff because it's very strong at the moment. So especially if anyone has got a kind of profile, those forces are going for them. They are trying to bring,
Mhm.
they're trying to bring me down, and I feel the tap on the kind of auric shield
Hey,
quite a
hello.
bit. Yeah, they're a lot. And I'm like, you know what? I know you're there and you're not getting in. But one way they can get in, which it's a bit like the film The Matrix, where Agent Smith can move through unawakened people. So one way that they can move is not a direct attack. It's coming through someone in the family or a partner. That can happen.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
suddenly, why are they behaving so crazily? Because they are being affected by dark forces. And so that is something that starseeds are not always aware of, that the unawakened around them can be affected as a means of getting at them, especially if they've got a profile, because they want to
Mhm.
bring you down.
And
Mhm.
as the mental health advocate in this country, trying to expound on that and explain that was one of my biggest challenges, because the whole system is profit driven, as is
Yeah.
medical systems in this country. And it was very difficult to try and say, well, I understand we're profit driven, but we depend, this is our product. We depend on these consumers to justify us. So let's try and serve them a little better.
Yeah.
Where do you feel we are as far as end game? What do you see unfolding going ahead?
Well, I'll just mention about mental health first, is that I
Please.
think the majority of my clients that I see have some form of entity attachment or energy attachment, the
Mhm.
majority.
Mhm.
And some of those attachments are very easy to release. Some of them are a little bit difficult, and some of them are a real issue to get rid of. I would say, I'm sure there's a place for drugs. I'm sure maybe it gives. I'm not qualified to talk about drugs really. I do know that drugs dampen the energy system, can do kinds of things. So I don't see clients who are on psychoactive drugs or antipsychotic drugs, because I think I can't really work energetically with people on those things. They can't be both done at the same time. So if someone's on antipsychotic drugs,
Hello.
can you hear me? Oh, I just froze there.
We, we
We froze.
yeah.
Yeah, we froze. Hold on.
There's
So
a
you were
blip
saying you can't work with people.
on antipsychotic drugs. If they come off of them, there's a period of grace. Then I can, because one thing I found in people's energy field, apart from attachments,
Mhm.
is something called openings in their energy field, or portals. And portals are opening in the energy field, which is where their energy gets leaked, but also things can come in. A
Mhm.
bit like having a house with an open door that they don't know about. Those doors can let in entities. Those doors are open through certain leisure drugs like heroin, crack,
Mhm.
even weed can open those kind of doors. Alcohol, pornography, black magic, or any deep trauma, like if they've been involved in violence, can also open portals. Those portals can be closed, but if there's drugs, that kind of interferes with the closing process. So that's one element of it. Where I think we are now. So with the mental health institutions, is if you've got a lot of people in a mental health institution, you've got all the physical bodies there, but you've also got lots of entities there.
Mhm.
Lots of entities. So you're dealing with lots of, and those entities can kind of cross over and start talking. Hey, we've got, there's my mate over there who's passed over like 20 years ago or something. So there's all of that. So I don't know how healthy it is to put people in highly concentrated units where all their entities are there and they are there, and they're also being treated like broken people. I mean, I'm sure for their own safety, there may be something to keep people safe for a while, but so so the whole evolution of the planet, I would say, is light is getting more intense, darkness is struggling to fight that light, and it's a bit like a wounded animal, very dangerous,
Mhm.
but wounded and cornered. And they're kind of like that. I see it. Don't get too near those forces.
Mhm.
Don't fight them. I advise people not to fight dark forces. Go beyond them. The light will banish them, but just don't get involved in fighting these forces. I see that things are getting quite intense, which is why we've had things like the political scene in America has been very volatile because of the light coming in.
Mhm.
The global lockdown happened because of the light coming in. I think that thing was released deliberately, is my own personal
Mhm.
And mine.
belief. And I think the whole agenda of toxic chemicals in the body is part of why it was released.
Mhm.
And I don't think that that agenda is just for money. I think there's another agenda beyond just for money. There's a bigger agenda, which I don't think I should go into. But I think so. As the light increases, the dark forces are getting more and more intense and trying to block. You know, they're trying to push out a digital ID, global digital ID, all of this kind of stuff. It's pushing global tyranny.
Yes.
This is the agenda of dark forces, global tyranny, which is banking forces, health, everything will be controlled. But on the light side, there's going, no, we want more freedom, more light. We don't want that. So this is tussle at the moment. And eventually this planet is heading for a 5D higher vibration. But we've got to clear out all of these dark forces. And the thing is that their agendas are becoming so obvious. The moment they try something, millions of people are going on Twitter. Twitter now is particularly like vocal, aren't they? Going, we know what you're up to. You're not going to try it on. You know, what are you going to do next? An alien invasion? Is that the next thing? And there's all this kind of stuff. But people are kind of waking up to all of the agendas of the dark forces. So while people are asleep, of course, they're controllable. But the moment they wake up and just to have an average, a sort of idea around what they're up to. I'm not saying people should be diving into conspiracy theory because that's quite a dark hole, but just have an
Mhm.
awareness of what's going on. Just be aware of. So many people are still not aware that the global lockdown was an agenda. They think, oh, a bat escaped from a lab, and really. I think even the American intelligence services don't believe it. They published a report going, that is not likely. It's not like the most likely scenario was it was probably either accidentally leaked or deliberately leaked. That was the American intelligence services that come out with that. So I would say that's probably, we're getting closer to it now. There's going to be more agendas coming. We're in a very intense period. So it's really good for Starseeds to free themselves up from the system, so they're not relying on any 3D system as far as possible. So I
Right.
don't have any credit cards. I'm not in credit card debt. I don't have a 3D corporate job. Free yourself up as much as possible from the system. In terms of food, don't be relying on supermarket food. Have some organic stuff around, even if you're able to grow some.
Mhm.
Because food is a big control. Bill Gates is really controlling, buying up farms in America, quite left, right, and center, isn't he? These kind of things. So food, escape from the corporate control of food. Good quality water, very essential. Good quality supplements, very essential. Good quality information and wisdom, very essential. Know who you're listening to, because there
Mhm.
is lots of brilliant channels and teachers out there, but there are some which I would call false light teachers, that they sound all right, but really they're narcissists in spiritual clothing. You have to be careful. And
Mhm.
I've got a lot of clients, of the wounded clients, who come to me after experiencing the various cults out there, and there are a few out there that they're out there. So
Yeah.
people have to be aware of them.
Mhm.
Well, you
Yeah,
mentioned Twitter. Twitter and Facebook are being weaponized now because the owner of Twitter is not all love and light by any means.
yeah,
And the people controlling Facebook, not all love and light.
Mhm.
So,
yeah,
you know, I'm looking at Twitter in particular with a very cautious eye, particularly given how they're backtracking measures that were taken to try and quell some of the most negative that it was giving a platform to.
yeah.
So, it's not an easy course to navigate. And 35 years ago, I was actually able to have my first client totally taken off meds, psychotropic meds, which the client had been on for 30 years prior, not to mention electroconvulsive therapy.
All right.
And then to, bring back the minimal amount of medication possible if at all deemed necessary. And that client was able to last another 20 years in a much greater state of health and vibration because of that. So, that's a very difficult thing to sell, and it's not something that a lot of people can convince mental health practitioners to do, but it's imperative, in my opinion, to help those people rise. Because getting to 5D, you have to really be as pure as you can possibly be in what you bring into your system so that that vibrational level can get there.
Yeah. Well, Twitter, since Elon's taken it over, has just allowed all kinds of views now, extreme views. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, these ones are heavily censored with fact checkers. And these fact checkers are, especially with the lockdown, blocking even medical doctors from giving advice because they say this is disinformation. Now, even the inventor of what's it that the Pfizer jab came out, said it shouldn't be used like this, and he got blocked on YouTube and other platforms for being a disinformationist, and he's invented it. A friend of mine or someone I know is an author of about 20 nutrition books, went on the early days of the lockdown, went on to Facebook and said, take loads of vitamin C. He got blocked by Facebook early on for giving disinformation. Like he just said, I'm just talking about vitamin C, nothing else. And I've written 20 books on nutrition. I've been teaching it for years, and they blocked him. Some fact checker thought that they knew better than him. So,
Or was told to block him.
Right.
Yeah, we're told. Yeah, they're given. Here's the guidelines. Block anyone that says anything about the vaccines or masks or anything like that. So,
and there's no recourse. There's no recourse if someone censors you on Facebook or someone decides that they don't want that message out, and that's extremely dangerous in my opinion.
So if this, I'm not sure if the recording's going on YouTube, but you better beep out those two words I mentioned, the M word and the V word, because I got a warning from YouTube saying, because I interviewed someone and they mentioned those two words, and I got a warning going, this contravenes our guidelines just by mentioning the word. So you better beep those two words out if you can, or delete that section out or whatever.
Well,
yeah, so we can see the censorship.
Truth to be self-evident. So if that in fact happens, there are we're fortunate to be on a lot of different platforms. So
and Roku, there's no, you could say anything
at this moment,
right?
Yeah, cool. It's all in flux. But if that happens, then we can then point to that and say, well, here's proof. And sometimes you have to let the light shine so that the vampires, not to insult any vampires in particular, but the conceptualization of the light hits them and they go away. Yeah. Sometimes that's necessary. It's necessary to sometimes expose yourself to take fire and then reveal where the enemy is and what they're firing.
Well, some people are on these platforms they're using new words, like I can't remember, something juice or something. There's all these kind of new words that come, and people get to go, oh, we know what you're talking about. So they're getting clever, and the system can't cope with that. It can't follow all of these kind of different names that quickly. You have to be quite obvious and speak out. But so far, I've been pretty clever on the main platforms. I don't. On my own Telegram and my own social media site, I say everything. But on these highly controlled platforms, I'm very careful about what I say, because I want to reach people. There's a message I want to reach them, and I want to give them this kind of process for reaching the light and their higher selves. And so the transmissions are aimed at that. Right. And a lot of the messages come back is, thank you, you've been my guiding light for so many years. And so that's really nice to be a light for those people who feel a bit alone or isolated. That I've never believed in the standard marketing practice, which here's a free meditation and sign up now for my $10,000 program. I've never done that. I've given most of it away for free. And I just said to the universe, I'll give it away, and I just want to pay my rent, And so far, it's been fine. I've been all right with that. So I'm not locking people into anything. I don't lock clients into any programs. I don't lock anybody into anything. You want to come and hear me? Come and hear me. Otherwise, I'm not. I know people want to make their money, but it's not something I particularly agree with, or something I want to do about locking people into expensive programs.
Well, do you agree that we're here to exert free will with the consequence of that exertion and learn from that? Because it seems to me that that's what you're doing by not locking people in and giving them the power. to facilitate their own healing through the truth that they can garner from what you're saying.
Yeah, the planet of free will. We've been a planet of free will for a long time, but on the other side, there's free will, free choice, but there's choice coming from a person's ego, which is not complete choice.
Right.
It's a limited range of choice, and that choice can be manipulated. The marketing
Yes.
manipulated. We can help you get this dream. We can help you neutralize this fear. And that free will is manipulative. People can manipulate it, but a free will which is connected to a higher intelligence cannot be manipulated. So, and that free will is linked to intuition, which is like, well, how am I feeling? I want to go. Where's in alignment? Where's the highest path for me? It's not the conscious mind alone going, I don't know which way to go. I'm so confused. The higher self will say, go that way, do that. And so it becomes a lot easier when higher will's linked to an intuition, where a higher self is giving us impulses going, if you want the easiest route, go that way. If you want the really hard route, go that way. And that's really useful to know. Okay, fabulous. I'll do that.
What are the platforms where you are free to say what you want to say and not feel censored or put upon by doing so?
My most free platform is probably Telegram. I've got a channel on Telegram. I'll pop it in the chat box and you can have it.
Okay.
Please.
Let's see. I'll have to just get it. Where are we? Oh, here it is. This is so anyone on a phone that wants to just join me here, there's my Telegram. I've just posted it in chat box so you can see that.
Okay.
I've got about 5,300 followers in there. I don't censor anything. In fact, I've lost a few followers because I've been pretty blunt about the global lockdown and what I think about dark forces and all of that. And I'm not taking people too far down the rabbit hole, but I'm just going to give them some information about what some doctors are saying, but mostly it's about the spiritual work I'm doing. But I occasionally throw in, you need to know about this guy, or for example, there was a number of doctors that put out a protocol for neutralizing spike proteins, spike proteins, which is a big thing with the lockdown. So I put that out saying, here's a great protocol, supplements and herbs that will neutralize spike proteins. So I'll put out that might be useful for people. I don't tend to put out lots of conspiracy stuff rather than what I think is really happening. But I try to minimize it, but just let people know the essence of what I think is going on. On my newsletter, I say that as well. Most of us are being hoodwinked about the global lockdown, about the wars that are going on at the moment, particularly in Russia and Ukraine, that kind of thing. There's a lot of conspiracy stuff going about it. I give my opinions on what I think is there. Some people get really offended by it, but I think that the American public and British public do not have the whole view of what's going on there. And I'm certainly not endorsing the invasion of that country, but I think there were probably some reasons that people are not aware of that provoked it, even though I don't agree with any country invading another country. I think it's a very silly reaction to it. They could have done it much more cleverly, but they did it the Russian way. Okay, let's go in and let's send the tanks in. Which
fools rushing in. But, so, how do people subscribe to your newsletter?
On my website, you can sign up to my newsletter, and also if you sign up, you get access to a free library of material. Everything I've put out there is in the library. Segmented in terms of meditations, Ascension news, which I think is what's going on the planet, podcast interviews. There's a whole range of things. If you sign up for the newsletter, you get access to all of that. And and also you get access to my social media platform. There's about 10,000 people signed up for it, and there's all kinds of. It's quite an upbeat. It tends to be very upbeat. Although some people post about COVID on there, but mostly upbeat stuff, spiritual stuff on my. That is, I'll type that. My own platform is our social. Hold on, I'll just type that. Socialmatrix.com. That's my own personal I created because I got so fed up with fact checkers, and I got fed up with them blocking things. So I thought, I'm going to be Big Brother. So I'm Big Brother now. I'm Stevie Zuckerberg. But I've actually very nice. I've never blocked anyone. I've had to tap a few people, say, can you tone it down a little bit? But that's about as far as I've got.
Well, we welcome that,
Yes.
and we look forward to being a part of that going forward. What is it
Right.
you wish people would know that they may not know to ask or learn?
Well, that there are many unseen friends in spirit working and helping them. The more awake they are, the more switched on they are, the more that those beings can help them. It's always good to ask for help, because again, with free will, they won't interfere. They won't automatically come in and help. You have to say, can you help me neutralize this? Can you help me choose the best that? You ask them and they will help. They'll give you, or can you show me the way towards X, and they'll do it. But if you don't ask, they won't do it. And certainly in England, we're like, oh, but I don't like to bother them. Don't like to bother them too much. They want to be bothered. Just go on and ask them. I remember speaking to an African shaman once. He said, don't just ask politely. Say, I want. He said, put out an energy. Tell them, be more vocal.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I'm being very British. I should be more African, more. Hey guys, you guys, help me. I need help. He's like that, really, very, very animated. The other thing that I want people to know is that for thousands of years on the planet, the belief has been, and the experience has been, that dark forces and darkness has been stronger than the light. That's been the overall experience. If you came out with a light message, you would get burnt alive or thrown in prison or excommunicated. Now that's all
Few
changed.
times.
Yeah, we've gone through that. The light is stronger than the dark now, but the belief system is still there, which is holding people back from shining their light, because they're afraid if they shine too brightly, the dark forces will come after them.
Right.
And, they may come after you, but you've got more than enough tools to neutralize it. They can't stop you. I mean, they use fear and manipulation. That's the biggest thing they've got. But once you see through their nonsense, they have no more power over you. So, and they may tap on your shoulder here and there, but hey, they can't, don't let them get through. The light is stronger than the dark now. That's the big change happening in the last 20 years. The whole 2012 shift was light suddenly started to get stronger. And every year, the light is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, until there'll be a point where dark forces can't even exist. They won't be able to be tolerated vibrationally. But, we're a few decades away from that yet.
Right.
But you see us getting there.
Oh, yeah. We're in the worst period now of the most intense light, intense darkness. But give it, I don't know, maybe another 10 years, you'll see the darkness will fall away. All of their agendas are they're falling flat. The global lockdown didn't really work out. The war after 9/11 didn't really work out. The war in Syria they tried to kick off didn't really work out. None of their processes are really working. This is why they keep trying another one and another one, because they're trying to create this global tyranny, and it's not quite worked so far. So the light is getting stronger, and it's actually frustrating them. They were thinking, hey, why haven't we got Armageddon yet? We're supposed to be having this. But can you understand that people who follow this Luciferian religion, these dark cabal, actually want that? They want destruction. They want it. It's a mindset that we can't comprehend, really. But they're not quite getting it, which is too bad for them. Yeah.
Well, do you find that the reason why we have the illusion that the dark is stronger is because the dark pulls us vibrationally downward, where the pain is more intense, where the fear is more intense, but the light raises the vibrations, and you realize, in the end, this is a drop in the ocean of eternity and it can't touch me.
Yeah. Well, the dark will pull us down to our traumas, our pains, and our fears.
Yeah.
But the light will lift us up, where those programs will also be revealed. If we've got a lot of light in our field, anything that's not light will start to get popped out. So it's a much better way to embrace more light. And then you will face the layers of guilt or shame or whatever will come out, but you will have light to kind of transform that, rather than the dark will pull you down and will try to amplify those programs, keep you stuck in a treadmill of them, which is, I think, which is why we should just turn. I stopped reading mostly mainstream news. I don't really read it. I don't really listen to people. Of course, we have empathy with people in pain, but There are a lot of people who just want to share their sad stories and then tuck them away and share them again with a new audience. They're not really want to transform them.
Right.
They just want to get pity and, you know, poor me, poor me, poor me. And, you know, I'm not really so interested in those people. You know, bless you, go and I hope you find the light, but I'm not here to help you. You're not really interested in healing. You're interested in, you know, going spreading misery. And there are people who wanted to spread the misery around, and, you know, because that, and actually vibrationally, if you're in a group of people, one person starts to get happy and the other people in the group are not happy, they will try to pull you down because they don't like that. You know, if there's one person in a group that gives up drinking, the others are drinkers, they will not like that.
No.
You have to leave the group because those people will not feel, they'll feel you're not part of us anymore. You know, you're not complaining, you're not drinking, you're not taking drugs. So the moment you increase your light, you probably will start changing your relationships, and the groups and the people you hang out with will change. You know, that will happen for sure.
Would it be fair to say that the illusion of being alone is an indication that you really have begun to hit bottom, and that you must come to that understanding that we're never alone, that those beings, guides, angels that are here to help us are always there, even in our darkest moments, but you have to access them. You have to take your power and choose to access them.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference, I think, between loneliness and being alone, because you can be alone and have the whole universe with you. Okay, I'm alone. I'm not really connected with people, but I feel the universe. I feel these connections. I feel nature. I feel. But loneliness is the idea. The ego says, nobody cares about me. Nobody wants me. I'm rejected. I'm about. It's kind of more of an ego trap, which then, you know, there's no angels out there. There's nothing out there. There's just miserable me. So loneliness can be a trap, but it also cuts us off from the very help we want. But really, what we need to do is kind of transform, especially things like self-pity, which is a great ego trap. I'm so sorry for, look how much I'm suffering. Doing that cuts off the help that we want, actually, because we're just commiserating, crying in our own soup, really, where what we need is to start looking outside, at connecting outside. Lonely, like a loneliness is I'm insular, I'm in my own system, I'm feeling sorry for myself. Aloneness can still be a very outward. I'm alone, but I'm connecting with trees, I'm connecting with energies. I'm, you know, and most spiritual people have periods of alone. You know, they go off in the desert, they go off in the mountains, they're alone. Right. They need to be alone to cut off all the chatter from the, you know, the human collective. So alone can be great. Periods of being alone, great. But loneliness, especially dwelling on self-pity or where I've been hurt or harmed and other people that I love, all of these things, we have to kind of find ways of neutralizing that. Even if it's listening to affirmation tracks or reading an uplifting book, we have to kind of get out of that trap and go, you know what? This is just my mind telling me that, you know, the world doesn't love me or no one, all of this stuff. Get out of yourself and look around. You'll see there's so many solutions, so much information, like what you guys are doing, this podcast. You know, people who may be feeling very lonely and listen to you go, hey, maybe there is hope, which is great. You know, if you're really stuck in that, you want a bit of hope, and then the hope can lead you off into another direction. Exactly. Follow the light of hope. Don't stay stuck in hopelessness. No. You know,
we're almost out of time. Can you give us a final thought, if you like?
Well, for me, I think keeping my vibration high is a daily practice. And I would say anybody, whatever your challenge is, whatever it's going on, you have to find ways of keeping your energy high. Stroking a cat, admiring flowers, watching a sunset, seeing people smile, going to a beautiful tea shop. There are simple ways of raising vibration. Do not hang out in places where you feel your vibration comes down. There are also practices like if you've been lonely in a room for a long time, your room may be filled with the vibration of lonely, you know, like loneliness. It's vibrating. You need to kind of clear it, sage it, open the windows, let in some fresh air, change the vibration. Everything in the universe is vibration. You know, the way we feel is a vibration. We can change that vibration. There is nothing fixed. Vibration and energy is fluid. Life is fluid. Situations can change very quickly. very, very quickly, actually. But we have to focus on what brings our energy up and let go of what brings our energy down. That's people, situation, places. If it brings your energy down, one thing I encourage people to do, for example, look around your home, all the objects. If something brings your energy up, fabulous. If it's neutral, okay. If it brings your energy down, get rid of it.
Mhm.
Even if you're someone close to you gave it to you, get rid of it. You don't want to have any object around you that brings your energy down. Only bring your energy up. And then the challenge is when you bring your energy up, keep it there, because things will want to pull you down.
Right.
People want to come and argue with you to pull your energy down, and there are all kinds of things. That's a challenge. Keep your energy up and keep there. And that's,
Well, thank you
up and
very
away.
much.
Cool.
Please stick around after we close this particular segment. And it's been wonderful to have a moment to listen to some of your enlightenment.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you next week. Many blessings. Have a great week. Thank you. Namaste.